Namaskar. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will be talking about digital image enhancement. I welcome you all in this session of digital image processing. So, by now, you all have read mainly about what is a digital image, how a digital image looks like, how it is captured by a remotely sensed by a sensor, satellite in the sensor. So now once the satellite has captured the image, the main issue with the image is that we have to make the or take out the information from this image. So to take out the information from the image, we need to first enhance the image. You have already read about how the image can be corrected radiometrically and geometrically. So after geometric and radiometric correction, the next step that we have to perform on a digital image is digital image enhancement. So today in this particular session, we will be talking about digital image enhancement, various techniques of digital image enhancement. I am Dr. Poonam Seth Tiwari, and we will be talking about what are different methods of digital image enhancement. So first of all, what is image enhancement? So enhancing anything means you are modifying that particular thing. So here we are doing the enhancement of the image. So we are going to modify this image, and we are making this modification in such a manner so that its impact on the viewer gets altered, or it improves the impact on the viewer, or let us say that we are able to interpret more and more features out of it. So enhancements are used to make it easier for visual interpretation and for understanding of the imagery. The image enhancement is the process of making the image more interpretable for a particular application. So there are various type of digital image enhancement techniques, and every enhancement is different from the other enhancement process, and for different type of applications we are going to apply different type of enhancement technique. Now, why we should go for image enhancement? Because the raw image that we get from the satellite, it does not have adequate information which can be used for information extraction purpose, because the data set that is there in the image, the histogram that of the image is very compressed. It does not occupy the full range of the display device. So in the raw image, the useful data often populates in a small portion of the available range of digital values. So this image enhancement has to be attempted once the image is corrected for all sorts of distortion. The image enhancement can be performed temporarily, or it can be performed permanently also. Basically, there are three different types of enhancement: the radiometric enhancement, spatial enhancement, and spectral enhancement. The radiometric enhancement deals with modifying the brightness value of each pixel in an image dataset independently. The radiometric enhancements are also termed as point operations. The when we make the modification of pixel values based on the value of surrounding pixels also, such type of enhancements are called as local operations or spatial enhancement. We have another set of enhancement technique that we call as spectral enhancement. So in spectral enhancement, the images are enhanced by transforming the value of each pixel on a multi-band basis. As you already know, we are dealing with multispectral images. We have multiple images of the same area taken from different electromagnetic spectrum range. So using that values, we can enhance the image, and that is called as spectral enhancement. So we will start with the first type of enhancement, that is radiometric enhancement. Radiometric enhancement, as we have already discussed, that it is modification of brightness value of each pixel in the image dataset independently. It is also called as point operation. It brings out contrast in the image. It is applied separately to each band of data. The enhancement applied to one band may not be suitable to or appropriate for the other band. The contrast enhancement, that is a very popular enhancement technique. It falls under radiometric enhancement. Before going into the details of radiometric enhancement, we should try to understand what do we understand by the term contrast. So contrast means the difference between average gray level of an object and that of its surrounding. Difference in illumination or gray level values of an image, or what we can say is how sharp or how washed out the image appears. Mathematically speaking, the ratio of maximum intensity to the minimum intensity is called as contrast. If the ratio is large, we say that the contrast is more, and it will be easy to interpret different features in the image. So mathematically, contrast can be said as maximum gray value divided by minimum gray value. So higher is this ratio, it's better to interpret the different features that are appearing in the image. Now, why do we require a contrast stretch? So if we open an image without the contrast stretching, this is how we will get it. That means the contrast is very poor, and we are not able to identify the features. And why is that happening? Because if you look at the histogram of different bands, here I have displayed a false color composite which is constituting of band 4, 2 and 1. So if you look at the histogram of band 4, 2 and 1, you will see that the histogram is not occupying the complete range from 0 to 255 when we are talking about an 8-bit data set. So as you can see, in band 4, it is falling between 0 to 58. In band 2, it is 0 to 34. And band 1, it is 0 to 54. So whereas it should have occupied the entire range from 0 to 255, whereas it is compressed in a very small range. Because of this, when the difference between maximum gray value and minimum gray value is less, so contrast is less. That is why you can see that none of the features are appearing on the image. I have displayed the 3 bands of the band of the image in 3 different situations. When it is low contrast image, the middle one is low contrast. You can see some features are visible, but most of them are not visible. Then the first image is the stretched image, in which you can see the histogram is completely stretched. And if there is one more condition in which most of the values are towards the brighter side, that means towards the white part of the histogram. So that becomes the saturated image. So in a saturated image also, you won't be able to identify many features. So coming back to image enhancement, the first radiometric enhancement, that is contrast enhancement, it expands the original input values to make use of total range of sensitivity of the display device. The density values in a scene are literally pulled farther apart, that is expanded over a greater range. The effect is to increase the visual contrast between 2 areas of different uniform densities. This enables the analyst to discriminate easily between areas which were initially having a small difference in density. So contrast enhancement is of 2 different types: linear contrast enhancement and nonlinear contrast stretching. So in the linear contrast stretching, input and output data values follow a linear relationship, whereas in nonlinear contrast stretching, the input and output data values do not follow a linear relationship. There are various algorithms for linear contrast stretching, such as minimum maximum stretching, percentage stretching, standard deviation stretch, piecewise linear stretching, sawtooth stretching, and so on. in nonlinear contrast stretching, we can apply any mathematical or trigonometrical technique, and it will give us a nonlinear contrast stretching, such as logarithmic stretching could be there. We can have inverse logarithmic, we can have exponential, squared, square root, cube root, and so on. Any mathematical technique can be, a function can be applied. So starting with the first one, that is minimum maximum contrast stretching. So what, you must have used an elastic. Okay, so when we stretch that elastic, so the entire elastic or a rubber band, it gets stretched. So in the same manner, we do the stretching in minimum maximum stretching. A DN in the low range of original histogram is assigned to extreme black, and the value at the high end is assigned to extreme white. The remaining pixel values are distributed linearly between these two extremes. By expanding the original input values of the image, the total range of sensitivity of the display device can be utilized. Linear contrast enhancement also makes subtle variations within the data more obvious. These type of enhancements are best applied to remotely sensed images with Gaussian or near Gaussian histograms. That means all the brightness value fall within a narrow range of histogram, and only one mode or one peak is apparent. So mathematically speaking, if we look at this minimum maximum contrast stretching, so to calculate the new brightness value, we can use this particular formula, that is y is equal to x minus x minimum divided by x maximum minus x minimum into 255, where y is the output brightness value, x is the input brightness value, x minimum is the minimum value in the input image, x maximum is the maximum value, gray value in the input image. So you can use this formula to mathematically calculate the new brightness values. So once you perform the linear stretch, if this is the original image and the original histogram, you can see after performing minimum maximum stretching, the histogram gets stretched and the image gets enhanced. You can see this is the enhanced image in which various other features which were not clearly seen in the original image are also we are able to identify or interpret the image in a better way. And the histogram, what happens to the histogram? The histogram gets stretched in such a manner so that it occupies the entire range from 0 to 255. So when you are stretching the histogram, you are able to improve the contrast in the image. Okay, so this is minimum maximum stretching. Similar to minimum maximum stretching, we can perform percentage cutoff stretch. In percentage cutoff stretch, we are not using all the pixels that are there in the image. So instead of that, from the mean of the histogram, a certain set of or a number of percentage of pixels are selected, and only those many number of pixels are stretched. So suppose there is a mean, and from mean, let us say I want to stretch 90% of pixel. So on both sides of mean of histogram, 45% on one side and 45% on the other side, we will take these number of pixels, and whatever is the minimum value, whatever is the maximum value that we are getting, we will use those minimum and maximum values as x min and x maximum in the formula that we have just now discussed. So that becomes percentage cutoff stretching. So percentage linear contrast stretching is similar to minimum maximum linear contrast stretching, except that this method uses a specified minimum and maximum values that lie in a certain percentage of pixels from the mean of the histogram. So from mean of the histogram, you are finding out a certain set number of percentage of pixels. So wherever these percentage of pixels are falling, we will use that values only as x minimum and x maximum. A slight deviation of this is standard deviation linear stretching. So in standard deviation linear stretching, instead of specifying the percentage of pixels, we are specifying the standard deviation from the mean. Suppose this in this histogram we have shown the mean as in the red line. Okay, so from mean of histogram, one standard deviation minus and one standard deviation plus, if we say, then on both sides we will take one standard deviation, mark the area, and wherever this falls, wherever it intersects, the same pixel values we will use as x minimum and x maximum. You can use 2 standard deviation, 3 standard deviation, and so on. So in the standard deviation linear stretching is similar to minimum maximum linear contrast stretch, except this method uses a specified minimum and maximum values that lie outside a certain standard deviation of pixels from mean of the histogram. A standard deviation from mean is often used to push the tails of the histogram beyond the original minimum and maximum values. So we can interchange the standard deviation and percentage cutoff. In a normal distribution, about 68% of the values are within one standard deviation of the mean, and about 95% of values are within 2 standard deviation of the mean. So this is the original image, enhanced histogram, and enhanced image. The third one is piecewise linear stretching. Now we were talking about an histogram which has one major one mode. Now if the distribution of histogram is bi or trimodal, then the analyst may stretch certain values of histogram for increased enhancement in selected areas. This method of contrast enhancement is called as a piecewise linear contrast stretching. A piecewise linear contrast enhancement involves identification of number of linear enhancement steps that expands the brightness ranges in the modes of histogram. In the piecewise stretch, a series of small minimum maximum stretches are set up within a single histogram. So I will show you how it is done. So instead of having one single transfer function, we are selecting a different part of histograms, and different part is stretched in a different manner. So multiple pieces are selected, and these pieces are enhanced separately. So this is how piecewise linear stretching is done. In this, you can change in which area of histogram you want to give more contrast, in which area you want to give lesser contrast. Now, next type of enhancement techniques are nonlinear contrast enhancement. In nonlinear contrast enhancement, input and output data values do not follow linear relationship. Instead of that, they are related via a transformation function. So y is a function of x, is a nonlinear function of x. So it increases or decreases contrast in different region of histogram. You can have various type of transfer function. You can have logarithmic, inverse logarithmic, cube root, and so on. You can have trigonometrical transfer function. You can have statistical transfer functions also. Okay, so we will be talking about logarithmic contrast stretching. In this process, the logarithmic value of the input data are linearly stretched to get the desired output. So all the nonlinear contrast enhancement techniques, they are two-step process. In the first step, in this particular case, in the first step, we will be finding out the log value of the original pixel value. So we will get certain some value. In the second step, we will be applying a minimum maximum stretching on these log values that we have derived in step 1, so that we can fit them in the range of 0 to 255. In the second step, the log values are linearly stretched to fill the complete range of digital number, that is from 0 to 255. Logarithmic stretch has greatest impact on brightness value found in darker part of the histogram, or what we can say in low DN value. So you can see I have shown the transfer function of various nonlinear stretching techniques. The logarithmic technique, this one is for logarithmic. You can say maximum slope is in darker part, is in initial part of histogram, which is darker part, or in which the brightness values are less. Okay. Similarly, for inverse logarithmic, maximum slope is here in the whiter part of the histogram. Now, next nonlinear technique is that we will be discussing is histogram equalization. So, in histogram equalization, the histogram of original image is redistributed to produce a uniform population density. This is obtained by grouping certain adjacent gray values. The number of gray levels in the enhanced image is less than the number of gray levels in the original image. Contrast is increased in the most populated range of brightness values of the histogram. It automatically reduces the contrast in very light or dark part of images which are associated with the tails of normally distributed histogram. So even though we should be aware that even though histogram equalization provides an image with the most contrast, but it may hide the information that we require. So if we are trying to bring out the information about data in terrain shadows, or in or if there are clouds in your data set, then we should not go for histogram equalization. So you can see this is the original histogram, and after this was the original histogram, after equalization the histogram becomes something like this. This is the original image and histogram. This is the enhanced image after histogram equalization, and this is the enhanced histogram, equalized histogram. Okay. Now we will be talking about the second type of enhancement technique, that is spatial enhancement, which we have also called as local operation. So if you remember, in that local operation we told you that the new brightness values are calculated based on the brightness value of surrounding pixels. Okay. So before going into that, we will be talking about spatial frequency. Now, what is a spatial frequency? Spatial frequency means that how the brightness values are changing in an area. So suppose the brightness values are abruptly changing. One pixel is bright, one pixel is dark. So we will call this as a high spatial frequency image. If the brightness values are slowly changing, there is a change in brightness value, but it is gradually changing, then we call it as low frequency image. So high frequency areas are rough textured areas of an image where the changes in tone are abrupt over a small area. These are the high spatial frequency areas. The low spatial frequency areas are the smooth areas with little variation in tone over several pixels. So this is a high frequency image and this is low frequency image. So you should not confuse that one image would be only high frequency and other would be only low frequency. Within the same remote sensing image, you will find high frequency areas and low frequency areas also. So all the areas which are homogeneous, in which the material is same, that means if it is the center of the pond or something, or building, then it will be, because it will have, so all the pixels will have same type of brightness value, so it will be low frequency area. Whereas when you move towards the border of the feature, towards the boundary of the feature, so where water meets land, so that area, so some pixels are showing the characteristics of water, and some pixels will, just the adjoining pixels will show the characteristics of land. So such areas will be high frequency areas. So all the edges are the high frequency areas, the border between the between two different features. So number of changes, spatial frequency is number of changes in brightness value per unit distance for any particular part of the image. So image is composed of high frequency details and low frequency details. Low frequency details are ones in which few brightness value does not change, or very minutely changes over a given area. In high frequency details, the brightness values change dramatically over short distance. So you can see here, this is a zero spatial frequency image in which all the pixel values are same. Low spatial frequency image in which the smoothly varying gray values are there, and high spatial frequency image is one in which the brightness value changes abruptly. So in this image, you can get both type of spatial frequency, high and low. So you can see, this is the forest area, all the pixels are showing the characteristics of forest. So this is low frequency area, whereas this area is high frequency area in which the forest pixel is there, then you have the riverbed, then you have something else. Okay, so this is wherever there is a boundary of feature, it is a high frequency area. So spatial filtering is the process of dividing the image into its constituent spatial frequencies and selectively altering certain spatial frequencies to emphasize some image features. It is the process of suppressing certain frequencies and emphasizing others. This technique increases the analyst's ability to discriminate the details. It is a local operation because the pixel value is modified based on the values of surrounding pixels. It is used for enhancing certain features. It is used for removal of noise and for smoothing of the image. Spatial filtering is carried out for using filters. Now, what are filters? Filters are algorithms that we are using for filtering. A filter consists of a window mask, which we call as kernel or convolution mask. And in this kernel, every kernel, a value is attached, which is we call as constant or which we call as weights. So the size of the kernel, size of the mask could be 3 by 3, 5 by 5, 7 by 7 or 9 by 9. It should be odd numbered mask. Okay, odd numbered square mask. So convolution is the filtering technique. A linear spatial filter is a filter for which the brightness value at location ij in the output image is a function of some weighted average of brightness values located in a particular spatial pattern around the ij location in the input image. So it is the process of evaluating the weighted neighboring pixel values located in a particular spatial pattern around that particular location in the input image. So suppose this is the image, original image, and I have marked the pixel values also. Pixel value is 164, 184 and so on. Okay, so now suppose I have a window mask. The window mask is also, I have given you 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. Okay, so when you perform the convolution, so suppose for this pixel, for which the central pixel 201, we want to calculate the new brightness value. So what it will do is, we will put the window mask over this area in such a way so that the central pixel of the window mask falls on the pixel for which we are going to do the calculation. Okay, so now you multiply the pixel value with the weights of the window mask. So, and sum it up divided by the sum of the window. So you can see 0 into 164 plus 1 into 188 plus 0 into 164 and so on, divided by sum of coefficients is 1, 1, 1, 1. So 1, 3 plus 2, 5. So 932 divided by 5, that is 186. So the new pixel value of the image of the pixel of the central pixel would be 186. Likewise, you go on calculating the new brightness value of all the pixels. So you can see before filtering and after filtering. What is the effect before filtering? After filtering, the black becomes, the dark pixels becomes more dark, white bright pixels become more bright, and in short what we can say is that it increases the contrast in the image. There are basically two types of filters: low pass filters and high pass filters. Low pass filters, they it let pass the low frequency details, whereas block the high frequency details. It has a smoothing effect on the image. It is used for removal of noise, removal of salt and pepper effect, and it results in blurring of image, especially at the edges. The high pass filters, they preserve high frequency and remove the slowly varying components. They emphasize the finer details in the image. They are used for edge detection and edge enhancement. The edges are the location from where transition from one category to another occurs. So high pass filters can be of two types: linear and non-linear. They can be also divided into edge detectors and edge enhancers. Linear filters are one in which output brightness value is a function of linear combination of brightness value located in a particular spatial pattern around the ij location in the input image. In the non-linear filters, use a non-linear combination of pixels. The high pass filters can also be divided into edge detectors and edge enhancers. Edge detectors are one in which the background is lost, only the foreground, only the edges are retained. The edge enhancers are one in which delineates the edges and makes the edges more sharp and details more prominent, but the background is not lost. So these are some of the filters that we commonly use in image processing. A very important and very popular filter is Laplace filter. So Laplace operator highlights point, line and edges in the image and suppresses the uniform and smoothly varying region. So you can see Laplace edge detector and Laplace edge enhancers, both are there. So can you find out what is the difference in edge detector and edge enhancer? You can look for it yourself. I will also tell you that for edge detector, the sum of coefficient of the kernel would always be 0. So you can see in the edge detectors, positive value is 8 and the negative value, if you sum up, that also is -8. Okay, so +8 -8, when you add it up, it becomes 0. Similarly here also, positive value is 4, the central value, and the surrounding value and negative value is -4. So it becomes 0. Then we have edge enhancers. In edge enhancers, the sum of coefficients would not be 0. Okay, it would be something else. Now we can have other edge detector masks also, which are directional also. Okay, so edges trending in a particular direction can be enhanced using these edge detection filters. So these are directional edge detection filters, such as this is horizontal filter. So you can see the central horizontal line has been given more weightage, whereas the other things are given less weightage. Similarly, you can have diagonal, you can have vertical. So you can create your own detector mask also. You have to specify the size of the kernel and you have to specify the coefficients of the kernel. So directional or edge filters are designed to highlight linear features such as road or field boundaries. These filters can also be designed to enhance features which are oriented in a specific direction. These filters are useful in applications such as geology for detection of linear geological structures. These are other directional filters. You can see we have made a filter for a north filter, so the north coefficients are positive, whereas the other coefficients have negative weightage. Similarly, you have northeast, east, south. You can create your own filter. The name of the mask suggests the slope direction of maximum response. So example, the east gradient mask produces a maximum output for horizontal brightness value changes from west to east. Okay. That was about the linear filters. We have non-linear edge enhancement filters also. So they use a non-linear combination of pixels for calculating the output brightness value. So one of a very important non-linear enhance filter is Sobel operator. So the output of Sobel is will be equal to, the value would be equal to square root of x square plus y square, where x is equal to brightness value 3 plus 2 into brightness value 6 plus brightness value 9 minus brightness value 1 plus 2 into brightness value 4 plus brightness value 7. Similarly, y filter is also there. So separately, first of all, x values are calculated, then y values are calculated. Both of them are clubbed together using this particular formula to get the final output of the output value of the central pixel. So you can see this is the original image and this is the output which we get after applying Sobel operator. Then this is Roberts edge detector. It uses only 4 elements of a 3x3 mask. So Roberts output would be equal to x plus y, where x is equal to brightness value 5 minus brightness value 9, and y is equal to brightness value 6 minus brightness value 8. So this is the original image, and when we apply Roberts filter. So when I'm showing you the entire image, you won't feel much difference between different type of enhancement techniques, but it produces very different result when you zoom in into an area and visualize it. Now the third type of image enhancement technique is the spectral enhancement. Spectral enhancement, in which we use pixel value in multiple bands to calculate the new brightness values. They are also called as image transformations. Image transformations typically involve manipulation of multiple bands of data, whether from a single multispectral image or from 2 or more images of the same area acquired at different times. Either way, image transformations generate new images from 2 or more sources, which highlight particular features or properties of interest better than the original input image. The most common transform that can be applied on the data is image division. So in image division or ratio, on a pixel by pixel basis, the formula is applied, or image division is carried out by using this formula. Band 1 divided by band 2 will give you a new band. The resultant data would not fit into the 0 to 255 range, so resultant data are then rescaled to fit the range of display device. It is a very popular technique and commonly called as band ratios. You must have heard about the term NDVI, normalized differential vegetation index. So that is a type of band ratio only. Mathematically speaking, BVIJR, that means brightness value of ith column, jth row in a new band, R is new band, will be equal to brightness value of the same pixel in band K divided by band L. That means it can be 2 different bands, okay, any 2 different bands. You can have other type of formulas also. We will discuss about other formulas. This is simple division. We can have other formulas also, okay. So if denominator is 0, then the denominator brightness value is made 1. Now, why should we apply ratios? First of all, it removes the undesirable effect on recorded radiance caused by variation in topography. So you will see, I will show you the example. If on both side of hill, uh, two sides of hill, one side is always sunlit and the other side does not receive the sun. So if there are same type of trees on both side of hill, then the brightness value of one side, of sunlit side, would be higher, whereas the shadow area would be lower, because naturally there the sun rays, less number of rays are falling, and illumination is less, so naturally their reflectance also would be less. So because of which the because of this variation in topography, the radiances which are recorded, or digital numbers that are recorded, they show variation. So ratios remove such type of effect. Sometimes differences in brightness value from identical surface material are caused by topographic slope and aspect, shadow, or seasonal changes. These conditions hamper the ability of an interpreter to correctly identify the surface material or land use in a remotely sensed image. Ratio transformations can be used to reduce the effect of such environmental conditions. So you can see here, these are two different types of slopes of hill. In one slope is sunlit side and the other is shadows area. On both the sides, same type of vegetation is growing, but when you see that if you are looking at deciduous, in the shadow area, it is giving, in band A, it is giving me a value of 48, whereas sunlit area, it is giving me a value of 48, whereas the same tree, same type of tree in the shadow area is giving a value of 18. In band B also, in sunlit area it is giving 50, in shadow area it is giving 90. So what happens if we only look at the values of band A and B in of band A in sunlit and shadow area, you won't be able to distinguish that, or you won't be able to find out that this belongs to the same feature or same vegetation on the ground. Similarly, in the coniferous also, you can see in sunlit area it is 31, shadow area it is 11. But if you take a a ratio between band A and band B, that means 48 divided by 50. So what happens? The effect of illumination or effect of topography, that is how it is affecting band A, in the same manner it is affecting band B also. So when we take a ratio of these two bands, so this effect gets cancelled out. So 48 divided by 50 would be 0.96. Similarly, 18 divided by 19 also is 0.95. So even in sunlit or shadow area, one type of feature is giving one type of ratio. Whereas what happens to the other type of feature? Other type of feature is coniferous forest. So that is giving a different ratio. That is 31 divided by 45 is 0.69. Similarly, 11 divided by 16 is 0.69. So even though radiance at shadow is only 50% of the radiance at sunlit area, the ratios are nearly identical. So these are the different applications or uses of ratios. Certain aspects of the shape of spectral reflectance curve of different Earth surface cover types can be brought out by ratioing. In addition, ratios may provide unique information which is not available in any single band. Ratios discriminate subtle spectral variances. Ratios clearly portray the variation of slope of spectral reflectance curve between two bands involved. Ratios are independent of absolute pixel values, and they can be used to generate false color composite by combining three monochromatic ratio data sets. Now, which bands should we ratio? Okay, so to find out or to finalize this, we should look at the spectral reflectance curve of the feature that we are interested. Suppose we are interested in identifying the vegetation. It is the easiest example, that is why I am taking that. So in vegetation, you can see in band number 4, the values are very high. In band number 3, the values are low. So if you take a ratio between band number 3 and band number band number 4 divided by 3, so 4 is NIR and 3 is red. So NIR divided by red will give you very high values for vegetation, whereas for other features the values would be nearly same, such as in soil. You can see the pixel values for NIR, fourth band and third band, red band, is nearly same. So you will not have very high values of ratio. So like this, you in which type of feature you want to identify, what type of image you have. So based on all that, you can see what bands you should use for ratios. So here, this is the infrared band, this is the red band, and this is the ratio of IR divided by R. So you can see in the infrared band also the vegetation was separated, but it was not so distinguishing. Okay, whereas in ratio, when you are taking the ratio, the complete vegetation area is very different. The next transformation that we will be talking about is principal component analysis, or in short we call it as PCA also. So you know that remote sensing images are captured in multiple bands. So we have multispectral data. So what happens is different bands of multispectral data are often highly correlated. What does this correlation means? Correlation means that they are giving us same type of information. So what happens, we are getting the similar information, whereas so many number of bands are there. So with number of bands, the processing time, the storage space and everything increases. So we need to transform the original satellite bands into new bands that express the greatest amount of variance from the feature space of the original bands. The objective of this transformation is to reduce the dimensionality of the data. That means we want to reduce the number of bands that we have for processing, and compress as much of the information in the original bands into fewer bands. The new bands that result from this statistical procedure are called as components. This process attempts to maximize the amount of information from the original data into a lesser number of new components. So principal component analysis sometimes can also be used as a type of data compression also. Okay, because it reduces the dimensionality of the data, all the information it takes and brings into a fewer number of components. So PCA is accomplished by a linear transformation of variables that correspond to rotation and translation of the original coordinate system. Now, you can see the in the first step, we will be talking, I will be trying to explain it graphically. So suppose I have two bands, band 1 and band 2. You can plot the values of band 1 and band 2 with respect to each other in this scatter plot. This is a scattergram. So you can see by the shape of the scattergram of the original image, it is very elliptical in nature, very dense elliptical in nature. So that shows that the data is highly correlated. So what we have to do to apply the principal component transformation, to do that, what we have to do is we have to find out the mean of the pixel values in band 1 and mean of the pixel values in band 2. So we have found out the mean in band 1 and band 2. We have plotted these two means also on our data. The intersection of the two means is important. Okay, so what we will do is, first of all, we will shift the origin of our data, of our intersection, to these two means. Okay, so now this was the origin of our data. and this is the intersection of the mean. So first of all, we have to translate this origin from here, from original place to the intersection of two means. In the next step, what we have to do is rotate the axis system. You can see we have brought the origin here. Now we have to rotate our axis system, x and y axis, band 1 and band 2 axis, in such a manner so that the band 1 axis, the first band axis, is parallel to the line of maximum variance. So line of maximum variance is the major axis of the ellipse. You can see this has maximum variance, maximum variation. So this is the major axis of the ellipse. So band 1 would be along this, and 90° to this would be band 2. Like that, if we have the 3 bands, 4 bands, 5 bands, and so on, you can go on creating an n-dimensional scatter plot. And in that n-dimensional space, you have to perform this operation. Okay, so graphically we cannot show the n-dimensional space, but mathematically you can have as many number of dimensions, and all these axes would be at 90° to each other. So once you have done this, you have rotated the axis system. Now you can calculate the new brightness values, new pixel values based on these values, these rotation parameters and translational parameters, which we call as eigenvalues and eigenmatrix. So using that, we will calculate the new brightness value, and when we plot the new brightness value, you will see that the elliptical shape of this scatter plot has gone. Okay, it is now the elliptical shape is not there, so the correlation has been reduced. So you can see this is principal component. You can generate as many number of components. These new bands, new things are called as components. So you can generate as many number of components, as many bands you have put in your of your image. So since we have given a 4 band data, so it has given us 4 principal components. So what I want to show you is that in principal component 1, you can see most of the information is available. The information that is not there in PC1 is there in PC2. And beyond, some little information is there in PC3, whereas beyond that, it is noise, mainly noise is there. Okay, so we can remove PC4, use PC1, 2, 3, and do a inverse PCA and get the data in our original space. Okay, so now the output image will have 3 bands. So here you won't be able to appreciate it much because we are reducing only 1 band. But in case of hyperspectral images where there are hundreds of bands, so we require such data dimensionality reduction technique. So PCA is one of the dimensionality reduction technique that we use in hyperspectral images, also in multispectral images also. It is also used for data compression also. So that is all from my side. Thank you so much.